What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Big Q, back with another video. And since everybody been on kind of like on lockdown and whatnot, but I decided to get myself back into podcasting, and I was like, I need some new gear. So started off my hunt for new gear. I was like, well, it's time to replace that old analog mixer that I had, and decided to go with something a little bit more next gen, some a little bit more modern digital mixer, right? Enter this puppy, right? This is my new toy. This thing right here is cool. This is the LiveTrak L12 from Zoom, and it's like the main brains in my new podcast setup. And as you can kind of see, it's a pretty little puppy. It's got a lot of things that I like. A lot of things that differentiated it from the old school Behringer Zenix 1602 that I had before, which I still have. It's over there, it's chilling. But now I have the ability to be able to do a lot of crazy stuff where like I can actually record directly into this board on separate tracks, multi-track, versus just doing two tracks like I could do with the analog, which for podcasting was a little hard to do. You had to figure out some clever ways to separate your audio and things like that. But this right here makes it super easy. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 analog or digital mono ends with 2 pairs of stereo ends, will give us a total of 12 track multi-track, 2 pairs of stereo. So it is amazing. So you can do a lot of wild stuff. Plus everything is can be recorded on board, because there's a built-in Zoom recorder in here. So this thing right here operates off an SD card, which we'll get into in a minute. I'll show you how to do that. So like I was saying, it has 12 inputs, 12 track input. So I mean, you can do your microphone. You have as many co-hosts or that you want on the show as you want. So it's you and plus a myriad of other people that you can have on the show with you. Plus, if you are just interested in doing the producing of the podcast, also has like a little slate microphone right here, so you can kind of press this and you can actually kind of jump in and kind of record your voice from outside of the booth into the booth, so people can kind of hear what you're saying by pressing that button right there, which is kind of cool. I think that's nice for people who are using this for musical recording purposes, which you can do that too. It's actually an all-purpose, multi-purpose board. It's kind of good for recording music, recording vocals, and also good for podcasting and live streaming, which is what I'm using it for. I'm using it for podcasting mainly, and I'm doing some live streaming stuff with it too. So I've recently been started my Big Q's World podcast, and been doing it I've been streaming it live as I've been recording it. So, and the thing about this right here will record directly into your DAW on your computer. So it goes into your DAW to record multi-track into your DAW, plus record into the Zoom L12 recorder at the same time, and do both at the same time. And the thing that I think there's a couple different things that I like about this thing that I think is kind of sweet. On all the channels, on all 12 channels, you have EQ. Multi-band EQ is a British style where it has the sweepable mids. So you got your lows, your sweepable mids, and you got your highs right here. So, and it's easily one can just be, you just hit select, and then whichever track you select, that's how you control the EQ, and pretty much the FX as well. So it has built-in FX as well. I'm not a huge fan of the FX, but they're there. So you do have a boatload of FX that are there that you can use, and you can use that on all 12 of the tracks. On the 8 mono inputs, you also have single knob compression, which is kind of cool. So if the conversation gets a little rowdy, you know how people sometimes they get to telling jokes or whatever the case may be, laughing a little bit loud, or sometimes voices kind of get a little crazy and lead a little bit out of control. You got your one knob compression right here. They kind of rein a lot of that stuff right here back in, which I think is fantastic, right? So you have all of that. The first 2 inputs are for your guitar or keyboard. When you have your Hazy right here, so you can actually tune the frequencies pretty easily with those 2 buttons right there. The board does support condenser and other style microphones that may or may not require 48 48 watts of 48 volt phantom power. So you have a phantom power button right here. And then it's split in half, so you can, so if you have some microphones that are not condenser style microphones, you can plug them in 1 through 4 and leave the phantom power off. And then for your maybe you're using the condenser mics for the vocals or something like that, you can actually press the button to get the phantom power for those 4 right here, which is pretty dope. Another thing I think is kind of cool about it, amongst all this other stuff, the outputs. So the 5 assignable outputs, the monitor outputs, makes this board kind of one of a kind, kind of like, you know, because you can actually set up separate out mixes. So for example, me as the host want to be able to hear everything that's going on in the podcast, including jingles, breaks, sound effects, sweepers, jingles, everything like that. I can set my my microphone, my headphone output A, to be able to hear everything. But maybe the co-hosts don't want to hear the jingles and stuff. Maybe they want to use that opportunity to kind of speak amongst themselves. Well, basically, you can take your B or C or whatever, which ones you want, and for those particulars, let's say I had my jingles on 4 and 5. I had sound effects and jingles on 4 and 5, and if they didn't want to hear that, I could press B, turn these down, and then on the B mix, they wouldn't hear the jingles. They just hear my voice and their, you know, obviously everybody else's voice. So you can assign these any kind of way you want to. On the musical side of things, maybe the drummer, maybe he want to just hit a bass line. He want to just drum along with the bass line. Maybe the keyboardist, maybe they just want to hear the drummer and they don't want to hear anything else. Maybe the vocalists don't want to hear the background vocals or whatever the case may be. All those things can be tuned and mixed down separately with these 5 outputs right here, which I think is very cool. And on top of that, for us in the podcast and live streaming world, we can use these for something really special. We can use these for mix minuses. So now, not only do you have 1 mix minus, you actually have 4 mix minuses, or 5, depending on how you want to set it up. So what you can do is you can either get yourself, let's say you wanted to take telephone calls on the show, you can just get yourself something like this. This is like a 3.5 millimeter TRRS headphone splitter. And it goes out. You got to make sure that it goes out to, and make sure that it doesn't just split 2 headphones. One has to be a microphone, one has to be the headset. So what you would do with that, you would take that, and you would either get you something like a 1/4 inch TRS jack, and this goes into it like that, and that will go in here, and you will be good to go. Or what you could do is you can get yourself your if you got a newer phone, like you got like a phone that has USB-C or something like an iPhone or some of the newer Android phones, and it has, you get yourself a USB dongle like this, and then you would be able to stick that in that. This goes into the phone this way. What you would do is you would take the microphone, and basically you would plug the microphone into this part. That goes into the board. The headphone part goes into the headphones, and you just need to make sure that you turn the headphone knob up so the people on the phone call can hear you but not hear themselves. Alternatively, and I'll be doing another video on this one here coming up pretty soon, you can get this cool little device right here. This right here is a Blue Driver M3, which is pretty dope. It makes doing the mix minuses a whole lot easier. I'll be doing a video on this one here coming up here pretty soon. If the video has already been made by the time you see this video, it'll be pop up in a little link right there. But this right here, kind of cool. Makes that whole process a lot easier as well. Now, besides being able to set up the mix minus, which I will do a video in depth on how to do that coming up here pretty soon as well, being able to set up the separate mixes and doing the mix minus, which means you can bring in a telephone call while you have a remote guest. Like let's say you have a guest that's on Skype or Zoom or something like that, and you also want to have telephone calls. So you want to have the person that's on Skype or Zoom be able to hear the people on the telephone, and people on the telephone to be able to hear what's on Skype and Zoom and you at the same time. So this board can handle all of that, which is kind of cool. And then, you know, all those complex setups, thing that's really nice, it can be onboard memory. You can save everything directly to the board for recall later. So if you got those special mixes set up for your telephone, your remote guest, and yourself, however you got it set up, you can also just go back and recall those settings that you had before without having to worry about going back and mixing it up, fixing it all back out before you have to go and start the show. So that way it saves you a bunch of time with the setup and all that kind of stuff. If you want to look at the inputs on the back, so we have a power switch right here, right? On our power, DC in power goes here, it goes to the wall. We have a host USB in case you want to put like a USB thumb drive in there. That's for either removing things from the built-in recorder or importing things into the board to be mixed. So you can actually record or export stems and things like that to a USB, and then take that USB stick, pop it in here, and you can do your mix downs and stuff directly from the board. Here you have your mode switch, where another thing about this thing, like we talked about recording to your DAW, it does become a audio interface once you hook it up USB to the computer. So you have the audio interface mode, which you're going to be using it most of the time. You also have the card reader. So instead of having to pull the card in and out, you can also switch this on and be able to export the files from inside the recorder, which is on the SD card, back to the computer without having to pull the card out, and so on and so forth. Then you also have the USB host mode, which I was saying before, where if you want to import things from a USB drive, you put it on host mode and you can do that. So like I said, most of the time you're going to have it in audio interface mode, and that's how you're going to use it about 90% of the time. You also have the USB that goes from here out to the computer. That's going to allow us to be able to use it as an audio interface. And the class compliant mode is for using it on the Apple device. You can turn that on and it'll actually be able to connect to your Apple device without a problem. And also you got your sample rates right there. Most of the time I just leave that on 41K, and that's, some people kind of record and think they would podcast and stuff for 48K. I like 41. That seems to work pretty good for me. And that's how we do that. So of course you got your another foot switch right here in case you want to put a foot switch on there, and then there's a Kensington lock area right there. Otherwise, that's your LiveTrak L12 from Zoom. I think I pretty much covered everything. Like I said, I love this board. I think it is actually pretty good. I've been really excited since I had it. I've been able to really enjoy making my podcast. I got back into it pretty good. It's making my live streams a lot easier too, without having to. It's easier for me to have my hands on a physical board versus using software like Voicemeeter and things like that. So this right here comes in handy. Comes in pretty good. I got mine from Sweetwater.com. You can get this. I think it's still on sale right now for $5.99. I think that's what it's running right now. Running around the same price as the Rodecaster Pro. So the Rodecaster Pro is pretty much the kind of thing that's in the main competition with this. It's a couple different boards to look at. If you're looking at the Rodecaster Pro, it's $5.99, around the same price as the LiveTrak L12 from Zoom, $5.99. Zoom also makes a smaller version of this board, the LiveTrak L8, half the size, half the amount of inputs. It does have the cool mix minus built in. There's actually a phone jack built right into the board on the L8 that allows you to be able to plug right in without having to do the splits and all that kind of stuff with the mix minus. One advantage of going with a smaller board if you decide to do that. Everything else is the same, built-in recording, all that kind of stuff. So if you're going back and forth between the Rodecaster Pro specifically and the LiveTrak L12, which is what I was doing, what made me kind of go with the LiveTrak is just the functionality itself. Being able to record to the board and to my DAW at the same time was pretty dope. Now, the Rodecaster can record to the board and to the SD card, but you can't record to the DAW at the same time. Also, I'm not exactly sure if you can actually go into the DAW and use the ASIO drivers to break it down like you can with this one. This one does not have pads for sound effects, but it does have inputs that you can use for like what I use a tablet in a soundboard app for my sound effects and sweeps and jingles. So you can still do that, but the Rodecaster Pro does have pads built into it. This one does not have that. So for around the same price, I think you get a little bit more value, especially with the assignable monitor outs in the programmable memory. I think that's like an unbeatable value right there in and of itself. So for me, I decided to go with the L12, and I've been happy with my decision. And I think the Rodecaster Pro is a nice board, but I think this record just actually had just a little bit more value for the money, and that's why I chose it. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching the video and making it for us. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos like this. If you want to see the mixed minor setup on this particular board and how I set up the Blue Driver M3, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the notification bell so you will know when the new videos go live. I'm your boy Big Q, man, and this has been the LiveTrak L12 from Zoom. Peace.